on my way to make a cool video, so I thought, and you're looking right at it, nice little screw right into the tire, and it just happened too. I was pretty sure, at least that's when I lost pressure on, turned onto this road, and the back end got pretty squirrely. So pull over, man, flat as flat could be. Found this nice business nearby that I could just leave it at and come back with a trailer. Man, that thing was a lot longer than expected. Not even sharp. Well, yeah, this thing's off the bead. Pretty squirrely just getting it here. It was only a few hundred yards, but damn. So this video has been a little delayed. This is going to be sort of first impression video. And I did drive it like back. I did ride it back from the dealership when I got it. So yeah, when I was riding it back, it was just, I was too busy absorbing everything, taking it all in. I couldn't really gather my thoughts so well. I just kept saying, this is awesome. It's incredible. And man, this thing is just a totally different bike. And it's sort of obvious, like even before you sit on one, that, well, yeah. And the very first thing I noticed though was actually the weight. It's 50 pounds more than the 450. And it's very noticeable. Like just wheeling it, or, well, not wheeling it around, but pushing it around when you're not even on the bike, you can feel that weight. And then when you're riding it, it's definitely not as nimble. But it's not just the weight, but also the shallower rake angle. That's just a very small compromise for how nice this thing is on the road. Like right now, I am enjoying this. It's not revved to hell, trying to carry my fat ass around. Yeah, on my way back from the dealership, I was freeway and I'm going like 70, 71, and it's just cruising along at $5,000. For the 450 to try and go 70, well, I would never ask it to do that very long. Not with me. And that's something I should really be forward with all the time, I guess. Is with my reviews, I'm a big fella. Way too big for that 450. But when it can only handle a 220 pound rider, as opposed to this bike where, God, I have over 400 pounds of carrying capacity, of rider capacity. Just having a bike that's sprung well enough that it can handle you is amazing. And it's geared so low, like it's a 1545 final drive. And I mean, that's very road biased kind of stuff. But at the same time, you think, oh, well, then you wouldn't be good for slow stuff. This thing will absolutely chug along like nobody's business. I have yet to stall it, despite my best efforts. This bike just wants to run and keep running. Whew. The spicy boy. Alright, and I did stiffen the shocks up a bit. So they had them on standard, I put them on sport. Not because I'm sporty. But yeah, this video is a little delayed because I got a flat tire. On my way to make this video 2 days ago, got a flat tire. Big old screw right through the middle of it. But luckily I was able to get that patched and the tube replaced yesterday. So we're back on the road again with a plug in the gaping hole. But man, it threw me off my game. I was excited that day. And I mean, I'm still pretty pumped about riding today. Look at this. those RPMs low and it just chugs along. Yeah, I figured instead of riding where I wanted to ride that day, I'll stay close to home, take my usual route. It's always been free of nails and screws as long as I've ridden it. That was the first tire that's the first flat tire I've ever had in my life. Being 31 years old, that's a while. So I mean, why would I go and trade my bike in? It's a bike that's 2 years older, double the miles, which, I mean, it only puts it at 5,000 miles. So it's a 2017, 5,000 miles. It's basically the exact bike I would want. The miles don't bother me at all because that's not even its first oil change. So that's one of the biggest reasons to switch over for me is the maintenance intervals. An oil change is 10 times longer on this thing than on my Honda. 600 miles on there, 6,200 here. Valve checks are, I want to say, 5 times longer. Like two oil changes on here, I think. I'd have to look it up, but I mean, it's way better, and I will perform those. And I don't mind doing it when it's spaced out that much. That's going to be years down the road yet. But yeah, I said I haven't stalled this thing out because it just wants to run. It wants to keep going. Where the 450 just seemed to like give up any chance it got. A lot of it's the way this thing's tuned, but also I'd say big thanks is to the hydraulic clutch. That thing is fantastic. People have said the seat's terrible, like it's rock hard, whatever. The 690 seat is not bad. It's a bit stiff, but it's way softer than a typical dual sport seat, because, well, those are just motocross seats. Way softer, wider, and all around just makes it way more comfortable to ride. Displaces the weight better. I think something else that helps with not stalling, and just in general having a smooth throttle, is the ride-by-wire system. It is so awesome. I just got it in standard setting. You can even change the throttle settings. Got a little dial under the seat. But yeah, just in standard mode. It's nice and smooth, but it may seem lacking in power. Like that 70 horses you don't feel right away. Or maybe I should say torque. Whichever you want to go with. But thing about the standard system is once you get the bike warmed up and you put it into higher RPMs, like you really get into the throttle, it's like 5,500 RPMs. This thing rips. So on my way back with the bike, I had taken a little side road, and when I was getting back on the main road, there was a car coming in my lane that I was turning into, and on my 450, I would have waited. But since I was on this thing, I'm like, well, let's just see what it does. And oh boy, did I go. That was sick. I almost did power wheelie. In first and second. And then you can change the throttle to advanced, where it'll act probably a lot more like an EFI bike that you're used to. Probably more like my 450, where you sort of have a snappy response, like it goes right away. So now we're going to do some low and slow stuff here in my favorite parking lot. Alright, let's see how slow we can lug this. It's just so easy to stay in the friction zone. You can make fun of my balancing all you want, but I don't care. And like I said, the weight, you can definitely tell. And it does sit pretty high. I mean, the 450 wasn't much different, but most dual sports are going to carry that weight higher. Yeah, there's no way you could do this with the 450. Yeah. And I know this isn't off-road either, but I mean, it's just an example. Relax. Part of this is I gotta get a feel for it too. That wasn't bad. Right will be more difficult, I'm sure. It always is. Oh, we got her. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sick. Yeah. The guy has the fork stoppers turned all the way in. So, I don't even know if they're hitting those first or... I ain't got enough speed. I'm really not good with that tight of stuff. This is definitely where I feel how a little less nimble this bike is, but so just let off the throttle. It does jerk forward a little bit. But it's nowhere near as bad as the Honda was. If you want to chug along in second, doesn't dive nearly as bad, does chug a bit, but it just wants to carry itself forward no matter what. And I love that. Alright, we better give this thing some speed. So I guess that's one minor complaint. The fan could kick in a little sooner. It does get warm when you're not going fast. But I mean, what bike doesn't? But look at this gauge too. That was one of my big things about the 450. It was like less than a vapor. And then the 2017 models, what years was it? 2015 to 2018? Or 14 to 18? For the KTMs, they have this gauge on them. Man, what a beaut. To have RPMs on an actual gauge, not just the digital readout like this. Because honestly, the digital readout, when it comes to RPMs, kind of useless. I mean, I guess you can tell when it's getting higher up there, but it's not nice and linear the way it winds up. But they went and put those on the new 690s, which is very disappointing. That's one of the big reasons why I would not get a new one, is simply because of the gauge. I think it's a minor thing, but no, it matters. I got some parts coming for it already, so I wouldn't say any pitfalls of this bike. No like glaring issues. I mean, I could leave this thing as is, completely stock. It's completely livable for me. Everything I'm going to do to it is not necessary. They're just little niceties. So I just got different grips because these are the hard standard ones. I think my cousins came with the like 2-ply, like real soft grips. Because he's still on his first pair, which is messed up. Get the new grips because I really like those ODI grips I had on the 450. So let's see what I said. Grips. Gonna put new foot pegs on here. Those ones that they got, I mean, they're standard, you know. But because the engine case there sticks out so much, I mean, it's sort of a pain for getting the brake pedal, but also it's a bit wider, so it forces your legs out a bit. And for standing, wider pegs would be much nicer. So I'm just getting regular KTM rally pegs because they're the cheapest option, surprisingly. I had no idea pegs were that expensive. Another thing I would like to get, I haven't ordered yet, is a different side stand. Because it's been an issue for me the whole time, even with dealing with my cousin's bike. The side stand is too long and angled, like too vertical, so that it's hard to like wheel around unless you want to put the side stand up. But you can't put any weight on the bike, otherwise the stand will scrape just when you're trying to kick it back, you know? So I gotta completely unload this, lean to the right, and then kick the stand up. It's a bit of a hassle. But then the stand I found was like an inch and a half shorter, and that almost seems like too much. This thing will be leaning way too far, and with the added weight it'll sink quite a bit. I mean, I put one of those widened foot pads on it, but still. There's no ideal solution for it that I know of yet. I suppose I didn't go to the marsh this time, but I don't know if my mind's all ready for this. I gotta write some thoughts down, you know?